Welcome to Center of Light. Good to see you tonight. Called my friend Mr. Brian D. Harden and said, let's hang out online. He said, sure. He's always up for a good time. We like having a good time. My brother Brian D. Harden is going to hang out with me tonight for definitely an hour, for sure. We're going to talk about magic, miracles, synchronicity, serendipity, all those ippities and uppities, and how, at least I do it. And Brian's going to share many ways that he's had wonderful success. And my microphone is still giving me some trouble, but I am going to have it fixed. When I hear a little pop in my ear, my mic cuts off for 3 seconds and I have to start where I left off. So bear with me on that. But we're going to talk about magic and miracles and how to fall into alignment. Powerful stuff. What is alignment? It's you being aligned with something that is so powerful, so huge, so big, it encompasses everything. For example, that hot rod car behind me revving up his spiritual Ferrari. He's hammering on that gas. Hammering on the gas is what gets the car moving. You're the car, right? You want to move forward. You go inward, go upward, you go forward towards what it is you want. And you can have any and everything you want. Don't let anyone tell you different. Why? Because you are magic. You will begin to wield said magic when you realize, when you look in the mirror, you are seeing the miracle. That will put you into alignment. I want to pay some bills real quick. Homecoming, crossing the bridge to the soul. Where is it? I'll get to it later. No big deal. The link to Homecoming, crossing the bridge to the soul is in this forum. Jump seat to Amazon. Purchase my bestseller. You can use that same link to leave me a review. I'm going to pay some bills real quick. Let's see. For those who are interested in merch to perch, it does support Center of Light. Welcome to Center of Light tonight. My guest, Mr. Brian D. Harden. We're going to be speaking about magic, miracles, synchronicity, alignment. What is all that? You have to realize just how powerful you are. Magic. White magic, black magic. Conscious or unconscious. You are wielding magic, my friend. Let me tell you about my bro ham sandwich. Tonight is Center of Light, Aloha. Why Aloha? Because I had a freaking magical time when I was in Hawaii. In fact, Hawaii would be somewhat the bedrock of when this all started to go down. I'd go to the North Shore and meditate in the evening at dusk, and the water would just barely hit me. And listening to Enya Shepherd Moon's album, the last song affected me so much I had a tattoo to my arm, and Japanese kanji because I didn't want English letters on my arm. And later, I found out the word means, it's smyote, or smyoch, and it means thought. And when a recent guest on Center of Light Radio from Ireland told me that, I was like, say what? Let me tell you about Brian D. Harden. He's a record producer. He's produced lots of music we have heard. He bought Hugh Hefner's mansion. He drives a Ferrari. He doesn't have to write books. He's the living word. He walks around and he has all these volumes of his life. He's done everything, man. Brian says, I am addicted to thought, smyonch, and addicted to creativity. I'm always making something, studying something, or playing something. I believe that imagination, I did a presentation the other night on imagination. I believe, he says, that imagination is more powerful than knowledge. I try to play more than I think. I follow my intuition, my heart, turn off the judgment, including judging myself. I've been blessed to be able to meditate and be in the ceremony with many great elders of many Indian tribes, nations. I can't pronounce a lot of them. He continues by saying, I am focused on sharing messages of hope and understanding to the world. I am obsessed with creating great projects. We share that biscuit, let me tell you, and sharing a clear explanation of what changes are happening to humanity and how we are all unifying and collectively raising and shifting our consciousness. I believe that my thought process is still similar to when I was a kid. I knew God as a child. It was simple. God is good. God is kind. God is good, God is kindness, God is love. I am a fearless optimist. I believe that all problems exist in order to teach us lessons and to help us to learn and grow. I believe that every crisis is really just an opportunity for growth. I believe that true angels show up as the devil, and a true devil shows up as an angel. Duality is complex. Reality and truth can be simple. We're all just here to grow and learn and share and care and give and receive. Give love, get love. Laugh more, worry less, and love all with infinite gratitude. My bro.
Wow. Who wrote that?
How are you, sir?
Fantastic. I thank you for having me on. I'm really impressed by all of your items that you're selling. Fantastic. I really like all of them.
Thank you,
they all have
to Robert.
Really clear energy on them, don't they?
They do. Robert said, Keith, I want to do this for you. And he purchases them and he sends them to me, all out of the wanting to be a part of something greater than we all know as ourselves. And I love him for it. And he's a fantastic guy. And he's just that way.
So for everyone to know, all of those items are intended to bring you magic, right? They are intended to bring you magic. So if you believe that there's a magic rock and there's a meaning behind that rock, it can bring magic. And so that goes with every item of what you have. There's what do they call it? Whenever there's a placebo, you think you're taking a pill. So it doesn't matter if it actually does have great energy or not. Your belief in the great energy is all it takes. And now some of these items that you have and some of the little items I have, I believe part of my belief is that there's been energy behind them. Like, for instance, you say prayers with them. You imbue it with all of your good intention before it goes out to the world, and whoever made it gave it their mojo too, and so it amplifies. And so, but whoever receives it is the big believer, and they've got to feel it too, and then it really works. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's imbued with all these little packets of creativity, prayer, intention. Where are they vesseling these ideas? Okay, I'm going to put this thing over here and I'm going to make a little stone and it's going to fit there and it's going to have this balance and this energy that I like and I'm proud of my work. And then someone else, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And when I learned to, all started in Hawaii, when I learned to simply let magic take over me and ooze through me, in fact, it doesn't even belong to us. It doesn't belong to us. We only special enough, so if we will, to allow it for a moment. That's really being open. When you're open to magic, it'll come in, but it wants to go right back out to someone else. You can't hoard it. That's not magic. That's selfishness and greed. The magic is wheeling the energy and spinning it and throwing it out, and watch how it boomerangs and comes back in multiple ways. And you catch the boomerang again and you throw it out again, and it gets bigger and bigger. Next thing you know, you got all this muscle mass to throw larger boomerangs.
Wow.
Right?
So aloha, it means both hello and goodbye. It means love. It means connection, really, and having a deep connection of love to yourself and everything all of nature. What's it mean to you? Well, the aloha.
Please. Yeah, I got you. Aloha. It means to me salutations. It means hello, friend, who I've never met yet. I mean, we could be walking on the pier in Hawaii and we see people we don't know and we say, aloha, just to say hello. It has love. I love the Hawaiian dialect. When they speak, it sounds like they're singing. Everything is like a song, their whole way. It's an entrance into someone's life by saying hello and hoping they reciprocate. Whether they do or not, it's not about that. It's about us taking a step forward. But it's nice when there's a reciprocation, because there's a connection that happens. And even if that connection is only for the instant of aloha, aloha, and you continue to pass, that's a sacred moment. That's an eternal moment. That moment will always live in the Akashic Hall of Records. And anytime anyone with a pure soul wants to go into that record, they can go to the Akashic Dewey Decimal System and look up Brian Harden or Keith Blanchard, and the information and the memory and the magic of aloha is there. I like the fact that it means hello and goodbye, because it's a complete cycle. You hang out with friends, you say aloha, and then when you see each other, obviously aloha.
Yeah, it's
magic.
Really a connection of love. Yeah. And so when you think of magic, it's also some level of a connection of love, isn't it?
That is the magic. That is the brew. That's the brew. That's the witch's brew, or the shaman's brew. Is the love. That's the power.
So whatever device, I mean, whether it be a little rock, some feathers, my little goofy thing. This might be my sacred coin purse, and this brings me good luck, or whatever it is. It can be any object you have can bring you good luck if you believe it and you connect to it and you give it love, and you seem to get love from it, or whatever, get confidence, and so I sort of we talked about the word in the past. We've talked about imagination. Magic, nation, physically the nation or the world that you want. And so your imagination creates the magic that creates the world that you desire. And so what are you imagining? And I kind of think that, we can spend the same amount of energy on fear or love. It's a choice. And what you dream can come true, and what you fear can come true. And it's your choice whether you're putting all your energy towards dreams or fears. And all that news media and TV, that's just feeding you fears and feeding you, television shows. They show murder and death and makes you afraid to even go out to your car at night, And I don't turn any of that on, so I don't have those fears. I kind of expect love, and I kind of expect that no matter what, my destiny will be able to go around whatever approaches me. I guess a dog will attack you whenever you're in fear of it, and the world will attack you if you're in fear of it too. And so my choice is to stay pretty positive to that. Now I'm not great at it all the time. Sometimes I slip up and I'm imagining all the worst possible things in the world too, but I certainly try to make it more of a practice and a habit. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's learning the craft. It's getting better just a little bit every day. Just being noble, just wanting to be a little better. People think there's this big arduous task to find God. It's not about any practice really, except practicing being you, perfecting the art of you. I need to write that down. Perfecting the art of you, dear
Well,
Lord.
read my book. I don't have a book. Keith's the one with the books, and he's great. These are great books, so buy them.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, perfecting the art of you, man. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, meditation, all these things are fun and cool, and they help. But how do we really go about helping ourselves? Do we just love doing the dishes? I love doing the dishes. My dishwasher's broken. I love doing the dishes. You know, it's sort of like that ongoing making love to yourself on all levels. That's where that's how we wield the magic of love.
It can be a meditation, right?
Absolutely. I'm doing it now with you, just like you are, just like everyone else is. Everyone is in this magical spin, this energy swirling about. And we're all magicians, because I may be throwing things out, you're throwing things out together, we're throwing things out. People are taking it in and they're throwing it back out, how they respond in the room. So this is lots of moving energy.
So can you tell me, over this last year or two of oddness that we've had, have you had moments where you had your own overcome by levels of not being in your flow, and then you're full of more fears and doubts and not really making the magic, because you don't have anybody to connect to or anything deep to do, or you're not in your level of creativity that you've been used to. And so how did you create a practice to dig yourself out of that a hole of feeling or negativity or whatever? How did you dig yourself out? Do you have any techniques?
I really didn't have that. I may have had some lulls. As far as fears, some things might have tried to creep in, like, what about this big C thing we've been locked in for 8 months for? This COVID thing. So, what is that? Some unsureness, but nothing really got me by the boo-boo. Nothing really grabbed me by the pants. But I've been doing this dance for so long, I guess, that I've truly learned to let the world move by. Just let it move by. Now, sometimes I invest myself, and that's when I realize, how does it feel? It doesn't feel so good. And I learned very quickly to let go of a hot potato. I do. But the question you asked me is still applicable, because how do you not walk into any fear, be it this time of the world we're living in, or just, because the shit you had going on 2 years ago, the shit you're going to have going on after all this is over, is still the same juggling act with fear, non-trusting and afraid. And how do we, I'm gonna volley that back to you. How do you move into the world of the unknown comfortably? Do you have a method? I mean, is there a way that can be applied to everyone's walk?
Yeah, I have a few, and I have fallen out of practice at times. And I found myself underwater, if you know what I mean, to where I didn't feel like I could get a big, deep breath of my own normal energy. I felt like I was suffocating or whatever, because I fell out of the habit. And everything's a habit and a practice. And you never get there and stay there. I mean, life is the roller coaster. It ebbs and flows. Some days it rains, some days it snows, some days it's sunny, and some days you wake up and the wind is blowing too hard for you to even go outside. So the trick is to adjust your sails to the wind and not try to change the wind, and or change the weather. It's adjust yourself. And so my adjustment is sometimes I get out of practice of it because I'm having great days, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I don't even need to do that. Get myself back to the higher frequency, and you do enough days of not doing it that the new habit becomes ignoring your own joy and your own bliss, and then suddenly you find yourself in the hole. So I found myself in the hole several times in the last 4 or 5 years, and so my practice is actually pretty simple. When I wake up, I mean, I've had friends with dogs, and I've got a cat that is really joyous. And in the morning, the little puppies will come over, and they're like, "Hey, it's a great day. What you doing? Let's go take a walk. Let's have some fun." Most of the time the little critters are wide awake and ready to have a fantastic time. And why aren't we that way? It's because we make our own little list. So my first thing I do when I wake up is I don't grab my phone and start looking through social media and making the list and worrying about all the things I have to do. I instead attempt to smile first. And I know it sounds goofy, but it's contagious. If I smile really big, everybody else will start
It
smiling
is.
really big. It's contagious. And so anger is contagious, fear is contagious, stress is contagious, but joy is contagious too. And so I imagine that little puppy licking my face and saying, "Hey, let's wag our tail and let's have some fun." Well, I start wagging my tail and having fun, even if I'm not. And so at some point, if you smile long enough, even fake it. If you fake the smile long enough, at some point your body starts relaxing and letting go. You start breathing different. You don't have the fears, that you start letting go of the heavies that are weighting you down. And you start to relax and connect to who you really are. And instead of all those lists of how many things you have to do for other people and whatever else, obligations, you start looking into what brings you joy. And what brings you joy quite oftentimes is by helping others and so on. But your priority list sometimes changes. So I start with smiling. And then that leads to the number 2, which is breathing. And I start breathing. And then so smiling and breathing. And just, right now while you're listening and we're hanging here, let's just take a bunch of big, deep breaths and just see if making that a practice just for even the next 20, 30 seconds or so. And you'll see that you can think better. And you suddenly start to relax. So the smiling leads me to breathing, and then it leads me to relaxing. And then I'm thinking more clearly. And all the fears start going away. All the doubts, all the negativity, all the lists of crap start going away. And I tune into my intuition because of that. So I smile, breathe, relax. And then the last one is pretty much I let go. I let go of all that, judgment, all that internal thing. And then the magic starts happening. Smile, breathe, relax, let go. And then the magic happens. So the magic happens, which is that imagination. What are you imagining? What's your I magic nation? What world are you creating? And so from that good place, I can create better. Now I told you I have had some crappy times this last few years, and if you consider the crappy times, at normal. And that's just right here. Let's just say the plane is here. I've had times when I felt like I was underwater, that normal, I couldn't even get up to normal. I couldn't raise myself up to normal. Normal was hard to get to. And so the trick is, how do you make normal floating above the water and optimistic and happy? And that's the normal thing. And that's the regular thing, like the puppy waking up and wagging the tail and saying, let's take a walk. How do you make that normal? And it's a practice. And so very well, in fact, you teach this every night, is what's your practice? What are you praying to? Are you praying to fear? Or are you praying to love? What are you imagining? And yeah. So I want to bounce it back to you. It's your turn to give us some tips and tricks and tools for love and joy, What you got?
Love for the sake of loving. Pray for the sake of praying. All these wonderful attributes is truly dipping into the magic pot, into the wishing well that when we tap into, brings forth well wishes not only for ourselves but for everyone. Like Mother Teresa said differently, love for the sake of loving, do it anyway. Pray for everyone without expectation, do it anyway. Do whatever you do because it feels good to do it. I do what I love. However you choose to do it, however long you choose to do it, and whoever with, or no one at all. This is truly you found your magic wand already because you know to do this. Now you start implementing and stirring your brew with the magic wand to get it nice and wet with the, what's the word I'm looking for? The witch's soup. and then you start casting out yuan. I mean, you start moving it about. And for me, it's truly just being in that space of doing what I want, for no other reason except this is what I choose. I am the God of my universe. There are not 7.8 billion people on the planet. There are 7.8 billion universes on the planet. Everyone has their own world. And when we truly begin to take care of the self, doing what you do, this is my way of being a magician or a musician or an artist or a creator of any sort. I do the things I love and so forth. And because of, I'm standing in alignment with true power. And I use my desires, the things I want to experience as a human being in this life, as my magic wand, hocus pocus. Focus, Keith, focus, hocus pocus. We can hocus pocus all we want, but you have to focus. And so I do everything I can to put all of my, like you, when I get into a project that has my heart and my attention, I try not to divert my attention from the project. But then again, I'm a very busy-minded, multifaceted, multitasking person. So one way that has been difficult for me is to truly hold focus. I mean, truly steadfast, one-pointed focus. I focus on something for an hour. I'm writing some text or creating a something. And then I do something else. I handle some phone calls. So if I had a prioritized list of how I want my day to unfold, I would have no doubt things would be more magical, miraculous, more so than what they are now. And I'm grateful for the little spells I get of it.
Have you ever heard the story of stone soup?
No, please tell.
Oh, it's a great story. Now, there's it's been told a bunch of different times. My version has come from a bunch of different people, and so I might mess it up according to someone, but I'm going to tell you my version. Okay. So there was a guy who had a magic rock, a magic stone, and he carried around the magic stone, and he carried around a big little pot and a ladle, and that's all he carried around, the magic stone and the pot and the ladle. And he would go from town to town. And so he found a little spot where near the town where the little stream or river was going by, and a little bridge going over the little stream. And he set up right at the edge of that and built a little fire, and he put some water in the pot, and he put the pot on the fire, and he took his magic rock and he put it in the bottom of the pot, and he stirs it with the ladle. And people were walking by and they're thinking, what's he doing? What's he doing? And someone says, so what are you making? He said, oh, I'm making stone soup. And the guy goes, well, it looks like just a rock sitting in a bunch of water. He goes, no, it's great soup. In fact, if you give me a carrot or a potato or an onion, we'll put your carrot or potato or onion in there, and in about 30 minutes, we'll have soup for everybody. So come back in about 30 minutes. What do you have? And he gives him a carrot, and then the next guy comes by and gives him an onion, and the next guy gives him a potato, and so on and so forth. 30 minutes later, the entire community shows back up at his little thing. Everybody's got their cup of soup, and they're all hanging out talking, and they're having a community gathering around that stone soup because everybody put their magic into that soup. And the magic rock created a community, it created love, it created the whole atmosphere for growth and expansion. And so anyway, stone soup is about community, about love, about imagination, and about taking nothing and creating something. And so how you do that is that positivity. He was sure it was going to create a community gathering. He was sure it was going to give nutrition to everybody. And so that's the belief. And it was contagious, just like the smile's contagious, and that's how you should be building every business. I mean, if you think about, if you're religious, if you think about a church, the church is not the building. The church is the people. And you can have church by three of us talking together on the phone every Sunday or tonight. You and I are having church right now. And whoever's listening is having church with us and interacting. And so you're having church every night that you get on the air. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the goal, is to bring people together. You're making stone soup every night, right? Right?
What a phenomenal story, dude.
Yeah.
It's so analogous. It's very deep, very simplistically deep. Something that came to me when you were sharing that beautiful song was the opposite side of falling into magic is learning how to unlearn, learn how to be able to see magic everywhere, and then falling into alignment with the mat stone soup. You're the stone, basically, and you're reaping from, because we can try to wield magic all we want, but if we don't know what we're doing, we have to recognize what it is to know what we're doing. So when we work on the self or don't do any work at all, fall into the simple self and be able to observe God, omnipresent, including you, is everywhere. When you see the natural rhythm of the universe in the movement of life itself, you just simply step into the magic, and then you become a part of the magical river. So I would think that both are true. Someone once asked Deepak Chopra, how do you get it all? He says, want nothing and you get it all. But also, if you want everything, you get it all. Either way, you're still going to get it.
Oh, yeah. I ran media for Deepak for a few years there. And so I got to hang out with him a lot. And I found him to be really pretty genuine and real. I mean, we're all just people. Everybody's got their own problems and is dealing with their own crap. And just because he writes great books doesn't mean he's, got all the answers. He's just lived enough and thought enough that he's got a handful more than you and I maybe. And but he's still making mistakes. And quite often in life, we all the spiritual lessons are kind of a big circle, and you think, over here, this is compassion. Yeah, I learned compassion, and then it takes a few years later, and you come back around, you're back at compassion again, but a deeper level, and so you never learn it all. It's like life is like juggling. You always can learn more, and so. No matter how enlightened he was always still learning lessons and growing and so on. So there was a documentary his son made about him, and his son made fun of him, that he really didn't meditate every day at the level that he pretends to, because none of us do, and so, like his son walked in with the camera crew while he was supposed to be meditating. He's in there taking a nap, and sometimes you need a nap. And Deepak said very clearly I got to do advanced meditation with him for there were like 6 of us in that, and he said, if your body wants to sleep, then go to sleep. You don't need to push yourself to do things and then not be whole. Your body, mind, spirit. If your mind needs the rest, let it rest. If your body needs to rest, but if you can connect to spirit, that's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can connect to the magic all around you, it's already there. So we have to recognize how it moves, how it acts, how it behaves, who it affects, who it doesn't. And it's a different language. And simply when you learn the language and you begin to mirror it or meet it or learn the language and begin to speak it, spell, words from spelling, the making magic.
You're
words,
casting the spell, right?
Casting the spell.
Yeah. And so what are you imagining? What are you saying? What you're saying in your own head, right? That's the spell. I'm not good enough. And so I guess when they talk about God, I am blank. That's the spell.
Right.
I am good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And so if you're not enough, then you believe it. So it takes the same amount of energy to imagine everything's great or everything's horrible, and to live in fear or live in love. And I've had my wrestling matches with that over the last couple of years of being disappointed in relationships that I've got, let down by what you believed in. And so then you start the pattern of, I guess, sort of like swirling around circling the drain, and you start going down the drain. And it takes a little while to undo that and come back out of the drain, and get the positive again. And I've only recently been feeling a lot more positive, you know? Yeah. How do you flip it around? How do you get it going? Yeah.
I honestly, I don't really per se have that issue. If I find some funk wanting to ooze its way into my consciousness, I am immediately aware of it. I don't go into these lingering, woe is me, I'm not good enough, these diatribes, these inner diatribes. I really don't have funky days. You and I have actually touched on this many times before. I do have a day, for example, that something may not be going my way and I get a little huffy and puffy. But as far as something that really takes me into, like you said, that swirling current that goes down the drain, that event horizon, because boy, once you get into that event horizon, it can be tough. I've lived that, and we all have had these dark night of the soul moments. Like you said, those times when we this far into the, and what up is, but I just can't seem to get there. Yeah, and those can be tough, and there's really no way how to do it, because I can, Brian can, anyone can tell any of us how they did it. In principle, it'll work. In theory, it'll work, but you have to mold and manipulate this formula your own way, because how you do it may not be exactly how I do it, and vice versa. But I think a lot of things across the board are applicable, but I think in the desire and the wanting of writing oneself is the instructions manual already integrated. I don't have to know how to do this thing. I know I want to experience this thing, and everything else is pretty much taken care of. Would you say?
Do you have anything that you've broken through, like emotional patterns or traumas that have happened to you over the years that you've had to overcome, or is that all done?
Oh, I'm sure. I have no doubt there's some residuals. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But some of those moments that put me in the dark night of the soul was relationship, what I thought it was, how I grew up, and when I finally kicked that wall down, I realized that simply I just don't give a fuck. I care deeply, but I don't give a fuck. I've lost that outer shell of I just don't care. But I just don't give a shit. I care. I don't control the world anymore. I like to manipulate it for the things that I like to see in my life from it. But I've let that old world go for many years. And COVID actually was that angel for me, not the devil. COVID was an angel for me. They'd kiss me on the same mouth that the devil would. And I kissed it back. And I understood that it's another face, grace, saying, you go be in the house by yourself for a while. And that's what happened when I was in that relationship breakup. I had to find my own house and be in it by myself without the girl. And I moved through it. Now, some things may catch me by surprise, and it gets my attention. I lean into it, and I go, whoa, 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 big guy. Step back. See it for what it is. What is it really trying to give you? What is the grace it's trying to give you versus the lesson? Look for the blessing. But yeah, I still wobble. I very much still wobble. But I'm very planted as well. I know you are.
Do you know what they call epigenetics?
Yes.
Bruce Lipton is one of those that
Yes.
speaks about it.
Yeah.
It's that, well, to explain epigenetics, first time I ever heard about it was they took these rats and they put them in a little box, and every day they'd give them something beautiful to smell. Here's the beautiful smell. And all the little rats would come over and smell the beautiful smell, and they'd really enjoy the smell. And so, they'd all come over as a collective and smell the smell. And so one day they go to do the smell thing, and they put a little plate where all the little rats would stand, and all the rats come over to smell the smell and shock them. And they did this a couple times in a row, or days in a row, or whatever it took, to finally, every time, without them ever being shocked again, then when they smelled the smell, the little rats would respond as if they'd been shocked. And so what happened was it took a beautiful smell and they'd respond negatively to the beautiful smell all of a sudden. And that wasn't just the big deal. The big deal was those rats had babies, and the babies did the exact same thing. And the babies did the same thing. And this went down 7 generations that all came handed down to them. So it didn't matter that it was a beautiful smell to every other rat on the planet. In their DNA was this part of them, this epigenetics in their genes was something that said, when you smell this, you're going to get shocked. And that was the response. So we all have that Gabor. Oh, okay. Okay. So it's been passed down to 7 generations that uh, this beautiful smell will make them respond negatively. And we do the same thing, that within our own genes and our own genetics is the potential that even though in our lifetime we didn't have a negative response to that smell, we still respond negatively to that because of what happened to our great grandfather or whatever it was. And so we have things to overcome within ourselves. It might be doubts, fears, anxiety, stress, and we don't consciously know what happened that caused that, but it's in us. So then you have to figure out how to raise above that frequency, change that frequency and change that pattern, even though, it wasn't necessarily in this lifetime that the trauma happened. So to do that, I've been studying a guy named Gabor Mate, Gabor Mate, with a little something or above the E, Gabor Mate or whatever. But he deals with trauma, and if you were to look at him on any video, you'll see he looks like he's been an alcoholic. And he admits in a brand new documentary that's out this week for free to watch. It's called The Wisdom of Trauma. I'd highly recommend you type in Wisdom of Trauma, Gabor Mate. You can see it for free today. And it is astoundingly good. And he explains very clearly that he's got his own issues that he's working through. And I recently watched a video of he and another doctor having an incredible conversation. This other doctor is also a psychiatrist and really well renowned. His name is Chatterjee, Dr. Chatterjee. And they were having a podcast for 2 hours. And about an hour into it, Chatterjee says to Dr. Gabor Mate, is there anything you're doing to make changes in your life that you've learned recently? He said, yes. Now, this is a world-renowned trauma expert psychiatrist. He says, I have my own traumas, and I go get therapy myself. And the type of new therapy that I'm getting is from this guy named Richard Swartz. And it's something like Family Integrative Systems or something, and FIS or something, I don't know. Anyway, Richard Swartz. So the other doctor, Chatterjee, says, I'm doing the same thing. I'm also going to him. So 2 of the world-renowned psychiatrists are going to another psychiatrist, and it's to clean up a bunch of messes that they have, their own responses. And so here's how it all works with the magic, because I'm going to tie it all back in. Let's say you as a child, or me as a child, or anybody, the listener as a child, was left to cry. And the parents just said, let them cry themselves to sleep. Well, it doesn't matter what the age is, 6 months, a year, whatever it is, 2 years old, you as a child feel abandoned. Like the people, where are my people that are going to come to the rescue? There's no one, I'm abandoned. I'm left all alone on this island here to cry myself to sleep, and it's not cool. And so that creates its own version of trauma. Now, to the parents, it relieved them because, oh, yeah, let them cry themselves to sleep. But to the child, it caused trauma. Now, at some point, it might have helped them and helped the situation, but it also injured them too. And so within that little bit of trauma, there's a little bit of feeling of like, I can't necessarily rely on everything. I've been abandoned and I have my own thing to deal with. Now I have to rely on myself. So let's say it, first grade, second grade, third grade, you get beat up by the bully, and then other traumas happen. So you have all these traumas in your life, and one happened at 6 months old, one happened at 3 years old, one happened at 8 years old, and you have these different traumas, and each one of them you respond from not the place you are now, the adult you are now, but you respond as if you're 6 months old or 6 years old or 8 years old, meaning the vocabulary you have to deal with it never evolved. You never grew from that. You just are a scared little kid inside. So what happens as the adult and as you grow, you want to protect that little part of you, that wounded little 8-year-old or 6-year-old or whatever it is, part of you. You want to protect it. So another part shows up. And the other part that shows up is the one that's the control freak or the overcompensating one, the one that organizes things or does details or diverts the energy or whatever it is, or doesn't like to connect deeply. And so you have different parts of you that overcompensate so that this wounded part doesn't get hurt. And so the core of who you are is this being that stays pretty normal. But when you're triggered and the little critter, the little guy is going to get harmed, you respond in a bigger, more aggressive, whatever way that overcompensates to save the little guy inside of you. And they're all little parts of you. And so when he's talking about the family, it's the family of parts of you that are inside, the parts that are harmed and the parts that are overcompensating to protect the harmed part of you. And so your trick is when you address those parts and get rid of those parts, you become more in center, and you don't have the needed protectors, and you don't have the wounded parts of you any longer. They all come back to center, and how he does it is really miraculous. He addresses not the wounded part, but he addresses the control freak part or the overcompensating part first. And he talks to that part of you. And because usually the overcompensating part of you is full of anxiety and stress, and you're exhausted because you're always protecting this wounded part of you. And you wonder where that exhaustion inside of you comes from. It's because you're overcompensating to hide that wound. You don't want the wound to happen again. So he addresses this, and he says, all right, to the overcompensating part, what are you protecting? And within you, you'll realize, oh, what I'm protecting is the wounded, abandoned child or whatever it was that happened to you. And you don't even need to know the details. You just need to know the feeling you have inside. It doesn't have to be, you were wearing a blue shirt that day. You don't need to know the details. You need to know the feeling and the emotion that you're protecting. And within that, he then asks permission to talk to the wounded part, and you'll see in your mind's eye or feel in your heart what's going on with that little being, and you can address and keep that in a safe place and evolve that. And once that wound is healed and evolved, then the protector doesn't need to show up anymore. And so you don't act in extremes. You don't act wounded, and you don't act overcompensating. You go back to spending all of your energy on evolving your consciousness, as opposed to dealing with these negative and positive parts of yourself or whatever, overcompensating parts of yourself. So it's his name is Richard Swartz. The other psychiatrist is Gabor Mate, Mate, and the film is called The Wisdom of Trauma, and it's out right now, and it's for free. This right now. And so I highly recommend you looking it up, and because I've really enjoyed it, Yeah.
That was juicy, delicious stuff, bro. I just took all that in like some water.
Thanks.
Yeah. I love the technique. I love the cycle, the self-reflection. Have you ever heard of the relationship between someone who's nowhere even close to magic, miracles, alignment, synchronicity, and they have so much inner trauma that such inner trauma often results in obesity?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things that we do. Trauma leads to all sorts of physical, mental, and spiritual disconnection. And if you think about obesity, it's usually using some level of something to cover up, to
cover the core, cover the wounded core.
That's so right. That's what Gabor Mate talks about, the trauma and addictions that come with the trauma. And so with those addictions, now, so the addiction could be food, it could be alcohol or drugs, it could be sex, it could be workaholic, it could be, you see, when you're a workaholic, you don't have time to connect. I don't have time to deeply connect. I don't have time to look inside of me, right? You could be, you numb yourself with television every night, and all you do is just watch television, and you're just sitting there staring at a box, watching commercials and TV.
Yeah, and in such a way, all these things are obesity. Even being an addict to television, or it's just a different form of the mindset, actually, the covered up the heart set of protecting the core. That's why in nature, we look out in nature and see animals like in the tundra. The reason they have so much blubber is to protect their core so they can continue to live in such harsh conditions. And likewise, when we see everything as harsh, we want to protect the core.
Yeah, you protect your heart, And so when I see someone out of balance, which, believe me, I have my days too, and my moments too, and whatever else, but when I see someone out of balance like that, I often wonder or feel into what it is they're covering up or hiding, and a lot of times what they're covering up and hiding is their heart, their emotions, their wounds. And alcohol or drugs or food or sex is only a short-term solution to make you, when we were talking about being underwater, you feel underwater, you get above water just for that box of ice cream or whatever it is, and then you go back down underwater again, you feel bad again. Or, eat a bunch of sugar and it gives you a high for a minute, or drink a bunch of alcohol, it gives you a high for a minute, and then you get the opposite. What you go up, you also go down. And then you're in the depression mode too. And it's same with all the drugs. And so the trick is not having, the things you're covering up, exposing those, realizing those. And so, we say, waking up. It's just waking up to your own crap, and, you can use a therapist to find your crap. You can go into sit in nature, and that'll help you find your crap. You can sit silently. You can go to a guru or whatever else. But I kind of think the guru is right here, and you are you, it's like, if you can look in the mirror deeply into your own eyes and sit there silently for a while, you might find the answers are right here inside.
Brian, a technique I've been using for years is, if all these ways that you described about going in the woods, find your crap, do this, find your crap. If you know what your crap is, I suggest, I'm more of a fire guy. I'm more like jump out of an perfectly good airplane kind of guy. If you know what your stuff is, Go in it. Go into a bedroom and bring you a big old fluffy pillow and get at it. Get it out, scream it out, punch the pillow. I'm definitely that kind of guy. But if you look in your eyes in the mirror to find your crap, this is without fail. Go look in the mirror, stay there about 30 seconds, try to fall into yourself, looking into yourself. Because when you first start doing it, you're going to feel awkward. That you have some issues about truly just looking at yourself in the mirror. So you look at yourself in the mirror, and when you're ready, say, I love myself. That's all you need to say. And then a crappy voice is going to show up, and magically, tonight is Center of Light, magic, magically it's going to show up and say, only if. Right? That only, I love myself. Only if I lost weight. Only if I had left my job. Only. So when you begin to do the work around the only if voice, when you look in the mirror and it no longer shows up, you will immediately recognize, oh my God, it's dissipated, it's cleared. Shortly after, something else is going to say, only if. And you keep the process going. If you have a hose, a garden hose, and it's clogged with dirt clogs, doubts, disbeliefs, insecurities, troubles, trauma, you turn on the faucet, the water is going to run muddy for a little while. It's going to run muddy for a little while. Your life's going to turn topsy-turvy. It's going to turn upside down. But hang tight. Keep looking in the mirror. Keep loving yourself. And eventually the water from the spigot begins to run pure. Same process with the mirror. I love myself. Only if, okay, you got a dirt clog and stopping the pure water from flowing. Do the work. The water gets cleaner a little sooner. Eventually, you will clear the tap and you will live in magic. I mean, that's how miracles happen. Miracles happen to everyone. In fact, it truly starts to see the magic is when you see the magic of you. You are the miracle. There's nothing that ever has been, is now, or ever will be created greater or more magical and more beautiful than you. When we begin to believe that, then we begin to integrate it. Then we get to receive that. That's the graduation. What's that, my brother?
How does gratitude work with that?
That is gratitude at its ultimate level. By loving yourself is to find the gratitude of being alive. And that's it. In fact, that's the end of the game. Good night, y'all. It's good to see you. My name is Keith Blanchard.
Right?
Yeah, right. When you fall in love with yourself, you're falling in love with God. When you fall in love with love God fully, and they fully love themselves. Trying to love God fully until you love yourself is like trying to understand the concept of a billion when we simply don't understand the concept of one. It's just impossible. So if that which we aspire to is supposedly greater than us, we have to become as great as possible to ever touch its garment. It's the only way magic can happen. There is no other formula. There's different ways that work better for other people, but we're all seeking the same thing: bliss, joy, appreciation, caring, sharing, unity, all these wonderful qualities. And so maybe it's not so hard after all. Maybe it's just to stop all the bickering and find your magic. Never let someone put out your fire. It's a holy fire, I tell you. It's a holy fire.
You've heard me say this all the time. Usually when we get on, we get to the dumbest part, the dumbest version of all this, which is just yum or yuck. You know? And there's a woman named Abraham Hicks, and she, channels this energy, Abraham, but she's Esther Hicks. And she makes it real simple. And it's she says, yum or yuck, that either it's a hell yes or a hell no. And that so there's a prayer that I say every morning with that smile, breathe, relax, let go. There's another one that I say. And I learned this from a Americana artist that I was producing, this guy named Ray Wiley Hubbard. He's a brilliant Americana artist. And Ray said when he wakes up, he just says, "My life is unfolding in goodness. My life is on course," telling himself that everything's perfect, even when it's not. And then he just stays with that perfectness. And so, what's perfect really is that there's some lessons within life. And so if we're not having trouble, we're probably not learning any lessons. So life isn't about how to avoid the problems, it's how to deal with the problems. And so my life is unfolding in goodness, my life is on course. Okay, I got some problems like that. What's the lesson? Let's start looking into that. And so, uh, the same amount of yum or yuck, same amount of energy to create either one. One's love, one's fear. And so, do you love your problems? Are you addressing those problems? Are you stepping up to those problems? Are you looking for the lesson in everything? Or are you just sitting in fear and doubt and covered up with alcohol or drugs or sex or food or whatever, overworking so much that you can't connect? And I don't have time to deal with my problems, And I've seen that plenty of times. And just
And some others, bless their little heart, may say, "What problems?"
yeah, yeah.
And so one has to become aware of themselves to understand whether they're truly living, as Wayne Dyer would say, living in real magic or not. So, we can live in magic or we can live in tragic.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, God really does not care. He does not care. He loves, but he does not care what you choose because it's not threatened by the choices you make. It knows that you will be eternal. So it doesn't care what you do. You want to go hang out with your spiritual cosmic friends in the Volkswagen hippie van and you go play on Earth for however long and you roam around the galaxy. We can choose to stay in these lower planes or we can choose to go up. It really doesn't matter. We've been doing this. You think this is the first rodeo, cowboy? Going on for eons. And so it's just simply a choice. We can choose to fall in the flow of magic or we can live in the abyss of tragic. I got tired of the second one, man. It just got hard and damp and muggy and stinky and full of sweat and pain. I get all that. I'm not avoiding pain or conflict. I'm just not interested. I'm just not interested in that stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think it's truly a choice. A person has to come down to say, I don't know how to do all these things I've been learning recently from all these teachers. Your job is not to know how. Your job is to love yourself, and you do that by desiring something. What is the something I'm desiring? It's yourself. It's just simply you. It's yum.
You're happy with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you get good at learning how to become yum, then you start writing the word yum with capital letters. Then it becomes yummy. Then you put 3 lines underneath. Then you bold print it. And then you exclamate it. And so you begin this turning within itself process of refining the art of you, refining your craft, refining you. And till you get to a place that there truly is least effort. There's no more resistance. You're not resisting anything. Not even your own desires, not even your own folly. Some people do things and they feel guilty. And then they feel guilty for feeling guilty, and it begins to compound itself. Like anxiety, feeding back fear within fear. And it grows these ugly monsters. And when these monsters get really, really big, big monster take a lot longer to tame.
A friend of mine's daughter said, life is like a video game. You have to deal with the monsters as they pop up in front of you, because otherwise, if you just run around them and pass them and go past them, and you'll be standing there, and eventually the monster will come up from behind and just whack you on the head. And that's what happens, like you deal with your monsters as they show up. And so what are the monsters? And so I have a question for you now. We're talking about yum, Y-U-M, and you were spelling that. And I looked down and, Yanava. Could you explain the yum in Yanava?
Yanava, I heard in meditation many years ago, probably 1994 and a half, 1995. First started this walk, I just giving me trouble. I'm going to get this fixed. A couple of years after I got back from Hawaii, that magical experience I had, one of the absolute highlights of my life. Hawaii, India, and the birth of my son. Those 3. But I went into meditation in the beginning of my spiritual practice, and I was curious. I wanted to know if my soul has a name. 30 minutes of here. Yanava, sort of like Moses, take thy sandals from thy feet. Basically, it just reverberated within me, Yanava, and it was factual. I didn't go, did I hear that correctly? It was none of that. And I just accepted it, and I applied this name to many of my spiritual centers. It used to be Yana'o Center of Light, and So when I have the opportunity to interview Swamiji, everyone who follows me knows who Swamiji is, a God-realized soul on earth. I never ask anything about me. Except in this interview, he said, is that all the questions you have for me? I said, I have one more question. He says, yes. I said, it's personal. He said, yes. And I said, I gave him a piece of paper. He said, what is this? And I said, Yanava. And I said, what does this mean? And he actually almost looks at me as if, how do I know that? And so Anjana translated. He says, y'all listen to me very carefully. He says, Yaha, Naha, Vaha. Ha is silent. Ya, na, va. Ya, the Y you see with the 0 in the yoke. Ya, John. Ya, the oldest name in the universe, means God. Heart, the circle, completion, divinity, eternity, wholeness. It's the fire, the will, the desire, the power. Well, the power is really in the belly, but the power center, or the furnace, let's call it the furnace. The N with the line over the top, the line, it means linear. N means na, which is the mind. The mind is linear. But when we have a balance, na, we have clarity. Then we can open up to truly allow the ya, that fire, to move through said lens, the clear mind, very clearly. Kind of idea. Nothing is encumbering it. And then va, the V has a spine in it. That happens to be the backbone. So Yanava is the sacred seed syllable of every sentient soul. It's who we all are. The Ya is the fire. It's the Trinity in such a way. The mind is clear, hopefully, and the Va is taking action. When these three components are used in proper ratio, you become illumined. So it's Yanava. Fire, will, desire, clarity. This is the planner. This is the organizer. This is the power, the organizer, and the doer. So Yanava.
Wow. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, when I learned meditation, one of the types of meditation I learned was from Deepak. We talked about Deepak earlier. And so I got to do some advanced meditation with him. And one of those ways is this is called transcendental meditation. And they give you a mantra. And, it sounds goofy, but it's the sound that the earth was making when you were born, that the planet was making, or the whatever solar system, I don't know. And it sounds crazy. And the first word, there's three words, and the first word is Om. And that's what he explained. Om isn't just OM with the little goofy things above it. Instead, it's the feeling of three feelings. It's ah, like open your heart, ah. And then it's oh, like ooh, oh, and then like you feel like delicious.
I love it. I love it.
And and that's the first of the three words. Om. And then the second word is unique to you according to when you were born. And for me, it's an odd word, and I'm not supposed to necessarily tell it to anybody, but that's unique to you. And
you can't do us like that, bro. Come out and throw out a piece of sandwich and take it away.
Well, there's something like 500 of these, and then it cycles back around. And so, according to this is Vedic astrology or Vedic, I don't know. So, and then the third word is Namal. Namal, and I don't know what Namal. I ought to look it up here on the computer right now. But here's the way I see it. It's similar to the three pieces of body, mind, spirit. That Om connects us to the feeling, to the physical feeling of life, and the frequency of yum, right? It gets us to yum. And then that second one is unique to me, and that's like my ego mind, or body. And then the Namal takes me back out to the universe. So it's almost like relate your feeling to the individual and then the universe, all. Relate your feeling to the individual, relate your feelings to all. And so when we talk about God, we talk about God as this guy up in the clouds. It's one guy up in the clouds. Or we talk about God is within everything, even the bad things. It's in the good things and the bad things. It's not just one or the other. It's in everything. There's a lesson to be learned. You learn from everything. You learn from a little dog. You learn from a baby. You learn from your guru. You learn from everything. You learn from getting harmed or getting loved. And so God is within everything. And so we see not God as up in the clouds and something to fear or something only, that people like me love that guy. Instead, it's you start to see God in everything. And just like we call water by many names, agua or whatever it is in many different languages, we call God many different names and different things. And we call God all. We call God love. We call God Jesus, Allah, Buddha, whatever.
Source.
Source.
I want to read something to you from the chat room. Paula Guthrie says, tonight is Center of Light Magic. My guest, Mr. Brian D. Harden. We've been talking about magic, alignment, synchronicity. From the chat room, Paula says, that's the best explanation I have ever heard. Thank you. I needed to be here because so many things are coming back to my memories and I now understand. See that little magic spell you done slung out there, bro?
All right.
Love it. Somebody took some of the witch's soup that you brewed up.
Well, ultimately, I'm muddling my way through life, and we all are. When I talked about Deepak Chopra, he's muddling his way through life. He's a little ahead of us in some ways, and he's learning lessons every day, and he's open to it, and that's how we all are. It doesn't matter who you are, Dalai Lama, the Pope. Or whatever, we're all just making, we're doing our best every day. And I'm about a day better than I was yesterday. And I have horrible, horrible, weird, funky days and funky moments. And the more enlightened I get, the higher I get in this enlightenment thing. It's not that I don't have bad days anymore. It's just that they only last for a shorter amount of time. Instead of being held underwater for a long period of time and feeling like I'm drowning, instead I just go under for a little bit. Instead of being held underwater, I dig my way back out because I have a better practice of like, oh, remember to smile. Even just sit here and fake the smile for a little bit. Okay, let's fake the smile, fake a smile, fake a smile. And then at some point you start smiling too. And then you start breathing and you start believing the fake smile. And then you start breathing, you start relaxing. Just breathe, relax, let go. And then suddenly all your problems start to, you come from underwater, you get a little above the water, and you can finally take a breath. And so the trick is waking up every day and making this the normal, and that is normal, to be above water. And instead of, it's normal to always be in fear and anxiety and whatever else, So yeah, more yum.
My brother from the chat room, Brian, I'm going to need your support. This guy, when we were 16 years old, I used to come pick him up for school in my parents' big Buick green station wagon.
Now you're bragging, huh?
And Rick Vito still owes me $2 for gas. I still remember that to this day. Anyway, he asked the question, and I asked him if he wanted a word or two, and I said I would love to. I think this is in 2 parts. How do I fix heartbreak of my mother passing away? I don't think you want to fix it. It's not something to be fixed.
Yeah,
it's something that you're going to have to find your peace with, and you can do that by models, techniques, or you can truly allow yourself to see it for what it is, the magic you've had with her, the magic you can still have. Oh my God, what a great mirror of teaching all of us how to truly fall in so we don't feel those wounds of abuse, because this person brought me to, often, Ricky, since you asked, because I love you, often grief is more about us than it is truly about what's going on. Because we don't want, of course we don't, to lose such loved ones. That's a beautiful thing. But equally as powerful is letting go of such beautiful things. Because they're coming back around. We don't want to let go because we think we lost someone. We didn't lose anything. They just became invisible. We didn't lose. It's not ever, never going to come back around again. So it's really, really trying to give you, it's your mother's way of giving you her love by saying, it's time to do your thing, young man. Sort of.
I might recommend to make a list of all the greatest attributes that you were gifted, everything that you were gifted, and everything that the reason that you have such deep love. And with that list, that's what your gift is to the world. And no one dies unless we forget them and forget what they taught us and what their gift to the world is. So as long as you keep her gifts to the world that came into you alive and you giving them forward, then she's eternal, you know? And you know very well that your gifts to the next generation will lead to her being eternal that way too. I have a grandfather that died before I was ever born, and I connected with him. I have his stuff up here on my altar, and I never met him. He died before I was born, yet I love his energy. I could feel his energy. And my grandmother, who was his wife, my grandmother, I connected with for 50 years, and she was my buddy, and she's gone now, yet she's within me. She's within this room. She's within the way I approach life. And so those attributes are the gift that you got. The reason you miss them is you missed receiving those gifts. But how you get to receive those gifts is by giving them forward. When you give love, you get love, So if you give a smile, you get a smile. If you give anger, you get anger. If you give fear, you get fear. Well, you give love. You give all the attributes that she gave you. Everything you miss, figure it out. Give it forward. You agree?
Yeah, and also, Rick, I would like to offer, heartbreak is not something you want to move through. It's something you want to experience. You don't want to move through heartache as if it's something that's bad and you just want to get beyond it. I got to get past this. That is the beauty and the deliciousness of it, is by dwelling in it and marinating in it, that will get you, so to speak, past it, or at least you will pass into a rite of passage into a new land, the new land of being yourself and truly at peace, like she is exemplifying, because you said she is at peace. So marinate in the heartbreak. I think a heartbreak from a true loving space is so deserved and needed by everybody. But when someone is in a dark night of the soul, this type of heartbreak, then it's time to actually do something about it. But your season will come, and there is no rush about it whatsoever. Brian, go ahead. There's another part to his question. Unless you want to.
Wait, can I?
Yeah, by all means.
Before we go there.
Yeah.
I had a near-death experience. I died when I was 16 years old, and I got to come out of I was at the operating table, came out of my body, saw my body there. I got to go away from that and review my life. And the review of my life was everything great that ever happened to me and everything horrible that ever happened to me. And after each one of those events that I got to review in my head or in my being, whatever, in my feelings, all those life reviews, I was left with sort of a question. Did you learn your lesson? So there was a lesson to be learned by everything great that ever happened to me and everything bad. So that was question number one. Did I learn my lesson with everything in life? So then after I reviewed my life, I was left in this kind of blackness, and there was a light at what seemed like the end of the tunnel, and I went towards this light until I was enveloped in this light. Some people would call that the gates of heaven, or whatever, that connected to the collective consciousness or the all. I was plugged in at that moment, not physically plugged in, but I was there at a spot where it felt like home. I knew everything of all time at that spot. I was connected in with what I'd consider God is. And so that was my higher spirit, the body, the mind, the spirit. My higher spirit was tapped into that all, the universal collective all. And it wasn't spoken English or anything, but the question I was asked then is, have you fulfilled your life's purpose? Have you fulfilled your life's purpose? So I live by these two questions. The two questions are, have you learned your lesson, or did you learn your lesson with everything in life? And then, have you fulfilled your life's purpose? So within that, I also know that that spirit or that soul of mine is eternal. And I was left with a choice to come back. Because I said, my life's purpose. No, I haven't fulfilled my life's purpose. I need to go back. So I know for clarity of my own being knows very clearly that this body and this ego mind is temporary, that my grandmother's spirit and soul, my grandfather's spirit and soul are still with me, that their energy is still with me, and they're in that all, that collective, as long as I live by the principles they did. And so within that, I have a choice to keep them alive and keep them going. And I have a choice to come back here and fulfill my life's purpose, which is also to amplify what they did. And that is connected to my life's purpose. I have to take all the gifts they gave me and feed them forward to the next generation and love them forward within myself and within everybody else. And so I say, be fearless, be big, be the awesome person that she dreamt you to be, and dream even bigger. You can help a lot of people by being yourself, and by being your brilliance, and I believe you'll see her again, not necessarily in that same exact body and whatever, but as a spirit, and we'll all touch these beings again. And this is eternal. This is just a lesson for a little while, and then we get to do it again.
Rick also asked as part two of the question, it's the same question, Rick. The first one was, it tears me up because I can't be with my mother. Feel you. It tears you up because you can't be with your mother. Second part of your question, my bro, is, and I'm missing my daughter every day. I just need to know that. Please give me some tools. It's the same missing. One looks like your mother and one looks like your daughter. Ultimately, you are the common denominator between these two experiences. That is, you are the one that's doing the missing. I'm not denying what you're feeling and how you're feeling about all of this. I would never do that. But honestly, in the ultimate sense of the word, to answer your question in the ultimate way, is you are the common denominator between the missing of your mother and the missing of your daughter. And those are two great things to do, but how it makes you feel is not giving you the magic or the power to put everything in its proper perspective that gives you the biggest bang for your buck. So you're the one ultimately doing the missing between female and female. Mom, which is the security, and daughter, same idea. So just become simply aware that you are the one in the middle of the missing, be it your mother and your daughter, or this situation in life, or that situation in life. We are always the common denominator as we move about and make choices, respond to by taking action, or we simply respond by reaction. And so, bro, just know that once, however you figure it out, or figure it in rather, to see that it's you, take your good old sweet time, there's no rush, that is in this unconscious dance, Your love for your loved ones is consciousness itself. So be careful what the head will tell you to, that you are separate, because you're not. Your parents are within you, they're here now in your bioenergetic field. They're within you. In fact, you are remnant from them. So they're living on through us. But I understand the process of grief through the missing of the physical bodies. I went through it. I don't think anyone can really tell any of us how to do that. It's a process that's actually somewhat sacred. Only we can figure that out ourselves.
Wow. All right. So I have shitty days too. I have great days. I have probably more great days than crappy days. And the more enlightened I get, the less quantity I spend underwater. But the trick is, if you're deep in that mud and you can't get out, and you don't have the tools, how do you do it? It's scary. And it's a baby step out. I mean, jumping out it doesn't happen. And covering it up with drugs and alcohol and whatever, food or workaholic, that's not dealing with it either. And so all these techniques that you talk about here, Keith, are connecting to your deeper self, and the my first thing of smile, breathe, relax, and let go. I mean, that is part of it, but it's not the whole. I mean, you have to also cry. You also have to feel the feelings of anger, neglect, disappointment, regret, fears. You got to feel all those, because that's the yum and yuck. That's the ebb and flow of life. It's like, I kind of say, if life's not a roller coaster, it's a treadmill. And so what goes up must come down, and what goes down must come up. And you might be in a down right now. I mean, we have those. And like I say, the more enlightened I get, it's like I lighten up. I get rid of the heavies off my shoulder. And it's not that, oh, I just brush them off. It's that I almost thank them. This monster or this problem I had, I address and I give gratitude for it, because I learned a lesson. I see some new level of, like, that's what I was supposed to learn from that. So I don't just hang on to the grief and that misery. Sometimes the grief or misery, oh, look at my miserable, this is my miserable little thing. It gets me attention. Sometimes hanging on to the misery gets you attention, so you hang on to your misery. But the trick is to actually thank it and let it go and say, I don't need to learn from this problem any longer. I instead can evolve beyond it. So the problem might, if you really start looking inside, the problem might be what you didn't get enough of as a child from her. And there's a little anger or regret, or something that you got only from her that you didn't get from anybody else, and you're missing it, And so both of those, within those, there are clues as to what you can do now to give forward. And sure, it would be wonderful for you to give it to your own child, to your girlfriend, to your neighbors, to the checkout person at the grocery store, and start actually making a habit of giving and getting some level of okayness.
Brian from the chat room, Ricky asked, very, very to the point, and I think it's a great idea. It feels right to me. He asked you directly, Brian, can you give me your 4-word tool package? In other words, he wants these spikes, these pegs.
4 words. Okay. What would the 4 words be? I mean, all right. Love is what I usually go to, and that's unconditional love. And let's start with love right here for ourselves. Unconditional love. And so in fact, that's what we were kind of getting to. If you start giving love to the checkout person at the grocery store for those 30 seconds you're with them and saying thank you and are you having a good day and so on, what happens is the fake smile that you're giving them will come back at you. That deep connection will start coming back, and then you are not afraid to do it to anybody else. So unconditional love starts here. If you don't like yourself, it's hard to love anybody else, and it becomes a habit of liking yourself first. So unconditional, there's no conditions. Unconditional love, there's no condition. Even even if you do me wrong, there's a way of giving unconditional love to you. I mean, it doesn't mean that since you wronged me, I need to invite you over to, water my plants and take care of my dog, because I don't trust you anymore. But I can still love you and say these are the boundaries. So love is the first thing. And because at some point, even if someone's wronged you or something's bad's going on, you can have that little moment of saying, thank you for teaching me patience. Thank you for teaching me boundaries. Thank you for teaching me other things. And so you can love them for being your persecutor, the one that brought you the big lesson, And so unconditional love. The second one is joy. Second word is joy. Love, joy. And so joy is for me, not just a mental thing. Like there's joy, there's happiness, and there's bliss. And the happiness is usually like a mental thing. I can think happy, right? Joy is more of a feeling for me. This feeling of joy. Thinking is happiness, and bliss is sort of the spiritual one. And when you have all three, it's really amazing. And so with that joy, it's just seeking that yum, and you seek the yum by giving yum. What you give away, if you give away a smile, you get a smile. If you give away laughter, you get laughter. So all those attributes that you're missing from your mother, we can feed them forward. And then you start getting them back too. And it starts righting the ship. It starts raising you above that level of water so you actually can get a breath of air. And the habit will finally put you so that every day you wake up above with your head above water and everything's fine. And so when you go down under, you're only there for a split second. You get a new normal, the new normal. So love, joy. And the third one is innocence. And innocence for me isn't like, oh, childish and stupid. It's actually innocence as in the Dalai Lama would stop and smell the roses, and learn from the dog, learn from the child, be open-minded enough to not know everything, but instead be open to learning from every situation. And so it's really open-mindedness, open heart, and so love, joy, innocence, and the last one is fearlessness that I usually go to. And fearlessness is realizing what we just said earlier, which is every problem or every crisis is an opportunity to learn something and grow. And so if you look at everything as just a problem and don't look for the lesson, then you never grow. Avoid. You avoid the monsters and you start running around them, and then they come back and clobber you. So it's at some point you have nothing to fear because every problem is an opportunity to learn and grow. So are you learning and growing? How are you looking at life? So love, joy, innocence, fearlessness. And the last one I give is gratitude. I give, being grateful for everything. And that's where we started on this, is the fifth one, which is gratitude, which is, are you grateful and for all the gifts you got from all these relationships we're talking about, your daughter, your mother, and then can you start feeding them forward, all the positive sides, and yes is the answer, yes is the answer. You can, just look inside.
Trish asked the question, and Brian gave 5 instead of 4. He gave 1 up, a baker's dozen. Trish asked the question, how do I start to look in the mirror, Keith, and not just see the flaws? I struggle with this. Brian already laid it out. The first one is love. Looking at, you can choose to, when you look in the mirror, you can choose to love yourself. How do you see past your flaws? You don't see past your flaws. You don't want to see past your flaws. There are no flaws. You need to get in the thick in your flaws and love them to balance. You have to simply look at your flaws. Don't get rid of them, because you can't. That's your wisdom. That's God kissing you on the mouth. Look at your flaws and look at them some more. It's like you start saying the word apple 10 times real fast. Apple, 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 apple. It loses its meaning. Likewise, when you keep looking at your said flaws and look some more and look some more and look some more, it's going to lose its meaning. Look at them. Love them, because they are actually the wisdom that is shaping you. And the reason you feel that you might not be in shape, that something shaping you, is because you are simply just haven't been recognizing those flaws as the actual most beautiful parts of you. Your flaws are actually the most beautiful parts of you in weight. It's your fullest potential. So when you look in the mirror, if you're in such a place as to why you would put forth this question, don't listen to the first voice. It is lying to you. It's completely the liar. You're not the liar, because you're not the nonsense in the head trying to convince you. It's all the past trauma and the past conditioning that came from lineages and before lineages. And tonight is Center of Light Magic. In order to be able to become the sorcerer, one who follows the true source, God. I go back to the source. So if I'm a child of God and God is the source, I am a sorcerer, a child of the living light. So you do this by looking at what you think are imperfections and perfectly loving them. And I promise you, they will simply disappear. And you're not really wanting them to disappear. What you're wanting to not go away. What you're wanting is for you to appear and to show up. Full in, full out. Look in the mirror. Bring your flaws to the table. Don't wait till they show up. Go get them. Go get your box of flaws, bring them, put them on the table, and lay them all out. Take what you can handle. You don't want to chew too much cracker, and then you just need some water kind of idea. Take what you can handle, but always push the envelope if you're such a person. Always want a little more. Like one of my friends says, if you think there's something more, then there's something more. And then if you think there's something more, then there has to be something more. But if you think after all that there's something more, there's always more. So the more you always yourself into wanting more of the real thing you're seeking, which is your own internal life fire. It's you. Nothing else will do it for you. Nothing. No matter what you think it is, how it may show up, whatever guise or garb, nothing will be the it or the end of it all for you until you love yourself in the fire. Perfections and all, imperfections and all. There is no other way. So step up to the mirror, stand up to yourself, and be easy. See the beauty that is you.
So in acting, in TV and acting, a lot of our favorite actors are these guys or women that have weird flaws. Like Danny DeVito's a little tiny short guy, and he's got a funny voice, and he's kind of a guy. And then Kramer from what was it, Seinfeld? Kramer was just crazy, right? But these actors look goofy, or they have flaws. They aren't the normal actors. They're extraordinary because they have confidence with their odd thing. Some people have a big nose or a forehead. I mean, or whatever. But with their confidence, the confidence shows up as the thing. It's not that they need to change. They are confident through all that. And so it's almost by looking in the mirror, how can you look at yourself and say, I love this. Thank you. I love this. I'm okay with this. And at some point when you start to say, I love this, no matter what, you end up giving yourself permission for everything to be okay. And if it works out, you're okay with that.
I love that. Give yourself permission that everything is going to be okay. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love that you're speaking about confidence. Confidence is everything. If you listen to a guitar player or a musician who knows all the notes and has no confidence, it's just notes. If you listen to someone who's a natural, has no idea in theory what they're doing, but they're confident, you can hear it. Likewise, if you go to a karaoke bar, you hear a lot of people sing with no confidence. But also, you listen to people like, take this how you like, I Have the Best of Heart, Mick Jagger, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan. These people cannot sing. What is the selling point? They know exactly who they are. They know exactly who they are. These people are not singers like Steve Perry and Josh Groban and the like, but they're telling you something from this space of being planted in their absolute sureness. In fact, mountains will move out of your way in confidence. Call it faith. I am confident in who I am. I am confident this is going to happen. I am simply confident nothing happens because I am, fill the blank, confident. God. I'm a manifestation of infinite confidence, consciousness. I am. So
I am God.
Yeah, it's just I am God. And I know that really, really frightens a lot of people. But you cannot love God and fear consequences in the same breath. You can't. It's impossible. You cannot love God and fear a devil, which could be hellish of anything that can happen to any of us, at the same time. You have to stay steadfast focused on that which is truly what you are, but for said situation want. What you got in your hands, brother?
I have a great quote by Alan Watts.
Oh, go for it. Love me some Alan.
He says, Jesus Christ knew that he was God. He woke up in our culture, of course. He woke up. Jesus Christ knew that he was God. And they'll say you're crazy and you're blasphemous to say such a thing if you say it, right? However, if you wake up in India and tell your friends, my goodness, I've just discovered that I am God. Well, they'll laugh and say, oh, congratulations. At last you found out. And yeah, that was your experience in India, right? When you went to India.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are God. It's right here. So yum or yuck, it's your decision. Your I imagination, the I inside of you. What are you imagining? What's the magic you are creating? The I magic. What's the nation you're creating? And so you're in charge. You're in charge of yum or yuck. It's the same amount of energy to create fear.
That's correct.
Or create love.
And so, yum happens through consciousness. Yuck happens through unconsciousness. And so either way, we all get what we want, or actually what we want, be it consciously or not. So this is a great motivator. If you know that by default, if you don't do anything to right yourself or balance yourself, you're going to get exactly that. If you do something about it, you're going to get exactly that. Because you see, the power that lies within the Yah, the Y, the power, is the same power that pushes through a clear Na, the N, or a filtered Na. It doesn't matter. So less powerful. You will be no more powerful when you become enlightened than what you are right now. Because the same universal force is moving through your being, be it one of clarity, or be it one that causes disparity and dismay. It's just truly, it's all, you are always creating by default. No fault of yours, you are the creator. So choose to become conscious of it and watch the magic simply just appear in your life. Synchronicities, miracles, serendipities, alignments, things that Brian and I had a talk, and we said something very strange that, you probably won't hear again for another 20 years. It's such a rare conversation. And Brian calls me 10 minutes later. Oh my God, Keith, you have no idea what just happened. Please tell me. And he begins to proceeds to tell me that what we just talked about, someone out of nowhere knocked on his door and manifested this thing that we were just talking about. I don't know. A Cyclops robot. And he got out of Amazon because someone knew from years ago he liked robots. I don't know. But this is how it works. It's truly falling into the space of magic. Just knowing that there's magic all around. Your loved ones are all around. Your deceased loved ones. They're all around. It's just everywhere. And we have to play the game fairly in order to level up. Level up.
I have a funny little saying that I do. And I say, what you dream can come true, or what you fear can come true. It's your choice. So choose wisely. Are you putting your energy towards dreams or fears? Are you in that yum or in the doubt? And so, it's all your choice. Where are you putting your energy? And they say what you put your energy on grows. So if you have unconditional love for yourself, then you can start to go out to the next level out, which are your close friends. And then you can go to the next level out, the family or the neighbors or whatever. And eventually all these next rung out and the next rung out. And your love gets to be contagious out, Fear comes contagious also. And so if you are depressed, if you're frustrated, if you're anxious and anxiety, full of whatever, it might not be that it's all you. It might be your choice of friends and the habits of what you do. If you're around people that are argue, blaming, and complaining, that's all low frequency stuff. If you're around people that are laughing and being creative and have dreams for the world, that's contagious too. So you might look into who you're hanging out with. Keith and I have the blessing of hanging out with a lot of musicians. They usually are ready to create. They can come together for 1 hour on stage having a vague idea what they're going to do
and blow it out the water.
And things can just show up and magic can happen. And well beyond any rehearsed thing, magic can happen and you haven't even seen each other for a month or 10 months or 10 years and magic will happen. That's actually contagious, meaning that the musician lifestyle, the artist lifestyle is a contagious thing. That's a thing. And it doesn't matter that your art doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be drawing or film or acting. You can have an artful way of living. You can be an accountant. You can be someone who checks people out at the grocery store and live life creatively. I happen to have years ago, about 25 years ago, I was living in Nashville, Tennessee, and there was this garbage man, and I could hear him from like 4 blocks away. I'm like, what is that? There's a guy singing at the top of his lungs, and you hear the garbage truck start and stop at everything, and he's singing at the top of his lungs. And he's the happiest garbage man in the world. He's grabbing the trash cans and putting them in, and he's doing it with great posture and great joy and this great big voice. And he's singing at the top of his lungs this great, beautiful, happy, soulful songs. He's having the greatest time of his life. He's the greatest garbage man in the world. So one day I stopped him. Whoa, what are you doing? Tell me about yourself. He says, "Hey, I'm a singer, but I have to pay my rent somehow. So I'm a garbage man at the moment. But at night I go sing, and I live creatively." He says, "I'm instead of doing, I can't afford singing lessons, so I sing all day, every day, and my voice has gotten really strong." And he said, "I can't afford a gym, so I just pick up these trash cans like it's weightlifting, and look." And dude was ripped. He was singing beautifully. He was ripped. He was living creatively. He was in joy. He loved being a garbage man. He saw the benefit from it. So, I mean, I guess, if you're a checkout person at the thing, if you're a taxi driver, I've seen taxi drivers do this, Uber drivers, where they really try to connect to the people, and they ask them questions. Tell me a story about your life. What have you learned? What have you grown from this past year or 10 years? Tell me the newest thing happening to you. And you learn these lessons, and then maybe you type those up and you become a story writer from other people's stories. I don't know. Being interested in people will get you great stories. Yeah,
Absolutely.
those
And
great
when you
stories.
connect with people, even when they go away, and you make this an ongoing occurrence, a daily occurrence, and we start realizing the connection we have with others, even when they go away, even when they pass over, even when they continue, we don't feel so alone anymore because we're connected. We feel this large network that we can never be broken from. So we always add in components, quotients of light to our own expansion to be able to wield this magic. Brian, we're at the top of the hour. Is there anything you would like to offer us as techniques, just your beautiful personal thoughts about how one could possibly live in magic a little deeper, a little more consciously?
Um, Something I've been wanting to do, and you and I probably ought to do this together. There was a woman who made this book, and it's called Horse to Water. And it's you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. And her name is D.A. Wills, Wils, D.A. Wills. I don't know what her real name is, but I've never met her. She made up 100 of these books, D.A. Wills. She made up 100 of these books and gave them out to some friends and had them give them out to other people that they believed in. And I somehow got this book, and it has got 913 pages in it. And in it are tips and tricks and tools and practices for how to raise your frequency, how to make changes. And each one of these is amazing. You know, physical changes, mental changes, spiritual changes. And what I find is if you just do even the smallest thing to feel a little bit better, uh, it could be a mental thing, or it could be a physical thing, it could be a spiritual thing. What happens is it unravels the next thing. And instead of swirling around, circling the drain, and as if you're going down, 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 by just doing one little baby step forward up, it starts being contagious. So for me, when I'm muddle minded and I feel cluttered in my life, I usually look around and my drawers are all cluttered, my desk is cluttered, my laundry's piled up, things are, it's like, well, yeah, it's an example of what's going on in your mind. You don't feel good. So you're going to let the dishes pile up, or you're going to let the laundry pile up, and you're just going to sit there and drink beer and watch TV or something, or eat a bag of chips or something. So, and that becomes a habit. So if you just do the first thing, make your bed every morning, or go do the dishes, or clean out that one drawer, and then the next day clean out another drawer. And what happens is it becomes contagious. So I was in Hawaii. I mean, this whole thing started with Hawaii. I was in Hawaii for 5 months this year. And I'll be honest with you, Hawaii is an amazing place. And you are right there on the mother. You are right there where the volcano's coming out, and it's alive and it is growing. The volcano's spewing out just a couple miles away from where we were living. And it had taken neighborhoods and created new neighborhoods, but destroyed neighborhoods just right beside us, right 100 feet away. And yet I was in paradise. There are dolphins right there. There's whales. There's hot springs. There's, great people everywhere, beautiful weather. Yet I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. And I was in paradise and I wasn't happy. And I realized what I need is community. What I needed is I needed creative. I needed people that really could go to this higher level of creativity and stay there at a regular basis. So when I got back here to LA, I rebuilt my place here to invite my closest friends that are really living their lives creatively because it's contagious. And just lately, I've been hanging out with all these super creative friends that love to make things. And it's not that we like to start things. It's like we actually like to complete things. And so I like here, these are 5 songs I worked on last night. I've got 5 more songs in this computer that I'm working on right here, right now, that I worked on earlier today. And I just love making things. And by me helping other people make things, I'm getting them to help me make things. It's contagious. And it's that stone soup again. It's the community and everybody coming together. So
Love it.
I created this community again here from friends that I've known for a while. And so if you're depressed and angry and full of fear and not liking yourself and have bad habits, let's consider circling yourself with some better friends. And if you can't find them, go to the yoga place, go to the meditation place, go take a walk on the coolest thing, and find friends that are raised. You can see them, you can feel them. They maybe they're playing with their dogs in this really beautiful way, and then you take your dog up and go meet them, and then suddenly you've got 2 people that love their dog more than anything, and then suddenly, that's a community of dog lovers, or people who like to make little knickknacks or create abundance for people or whatever it is. I mean, there's no limit to creativity, and so when you start being creative with other people, it comes back. When you be joyous with other people, enthusiasm. And so the church isn't the building, it's the people, and so create your own church, create your own little group around you, your own little cult of joyous, imagining, dreaming people that are full of yum, and it'll come back to you, and it'll give, get, and just keep that flow open. And if you've got one bad egg in that whole bunch, one bad egg in the whole bunch will make the whole thing spoil. So, make sure you set some boundaries, and if once you get your 2, 3, 4, 5 amazing people around you, the joy will come back. It'll explode, and you'll have the stone soup made.
You have to be hungry. Brian, something I want to echo, and we're going to sign off, is being a musician, being whoever you are influencing people, whether you know that you're doing it or not. Everyone influences everyone. It's a spider web that is everyone affects the whole. Being a musician, when I go on stage, the first 3, back when I was with GTA and in bands before, I've resigned that position. But until my sound was mixed on my iPad and I got everything like I wanted, when I take my shoes off, to go down. I'll take my shoes off after about the 4th or 5th song because I'm done with all the mixing and the lighting and all that stuff. I'm ready to hunker down and go in.
You open your heart.
And when I dive into that fire to make that sandwich, bro, I begin to influence myself, the bandmates, as they do me, and the band begins to influence the room. But we are all so powerful that we can influence others consciously and truly change the self first, and then the world, and then the universe. Something I came up with when you were sharing your beautiful thoughts there, sir. Find your fire. This describes the people that you re-invited and initiated back into your life since Hawaii. Find your fire. Everyone knows me. Keith is always talking about fire. I'm getting tired of hearing about the fire. If you truly want the fire, you can never get tired of talking about the fire. God, whatever word you want. I call it fire because in this place, everything magically disappears. It all just disappears, and all that's left is the fire. Find your fire for moments at a time, if you must, but walk into your fire. And over the course of time, turn the fire up and let your soul burn out. When you do what you love ongoingly, you will find yourself ongoingly loving what you do, hence loving yourself. Find your fire. Well, I don't know what that is. Sure you do. You know exactly what it is. Because every day you go to a job that you hate or you yuck, you know exactly what you wish you would be doing. The reason those people in Memphis drive like lunatics on the expressway at 8 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon, and I'm grateful that I don't live on the expressway at those times of day, which I will never take the expressway. I will go 10 minutes out of my way because it's crazy. That being said, the reason people drive the way they do to and from a job is because they hate what they do, and so they stay at home to the latest possible moment, so they don't have to bullet their ass down the highway and drive like maniacs, dangerous as God knows what. And on the way home, the opposite occurs. I can't wait to get home fast enough because I hate this experience. Likewise, we got to be careful. Stay in your own lane. Drive responsibly. And I just think you find your fire. There's nothing that will ever sway you from it once you start to live in it. Brian will tell you that. Brian does exactly what he does. He records albums. He writes. He makes movies. What is it you want to do? Do it fully. If you dabble, you will always be a dabbler. Become the master of you. Learn the art of you, full in, full out. Without a doubt, you will see it sprout all around you. Brian, you got any closing words, sir?
Well, I also think that we're in this weird time where people create something and they spend 3 days trying to make music for the first time ever. And it's their first song, and they're like, I'm not a good songwriter. Well, dude, you got to write like 500 songs to actually figure it out. You got to stumble around a while. You got to join a band and suck and play really bad gigs for quite a while, and then finally you hit this weird little thing. I mean, you do this with everything. Juggling. I can't juggle 7 balls. You got to start with 2. And do that for a while, then you add another, get a third. But so many people these days, they're like, I can't juggle 7 balls, so I'm not a juggler. It's like, what are you thinking? And like, for me to be a master at what I do musically, I've been obsessed with it since about 1982. Obsessed with music. And every night I'm trying to make music. I love making music. Like today, I worked on 5 songs, and was it work? No, it was fun. And as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to go back and work on these and try to do others. So the joy I get by giving joy and bringing this all through is what I'm here to do. I'm here to spread that joy. I'm here to like put a little yum into what I can. Now, the funny part is the music I'm making, it might not be everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody loves reggae or blues or rock or disco or country or, rap or whatever. So, if I make the best polka music in the world and you don't like polka music, fine. But there might be 1,000 people or even just one in the world that likes my polka music. And that's okay. If I turn on one other soul on this planet that likes my mediocre polka music, then that's okay. I'm a success. So ultimately, stop judging yourself or your own creations. Just make what you do. Be proud of it. Love your weird little clump of whatever. I've seen artwork that was ridiculous. That you're like, a second grader could do that, and it sells for millions of dollars. Like the guy who splashes paint on the canvas. It's like anybody could do that. Well, he did it, and he's selling them for millions of dollars, so he wins. Yeah,
right.
So figure out what you're splashing. What do you want to do? And
Brian, I'm going to close with this beautiful, magical thing just happened for me. I hope it's okay with her. Andy, are you still here? Just say yes. Magic. Brian Harden and I are hanging out. And I don't know why. I loved Hawaii. It was magical for me. Brian didn't have so much of a good time, but it was magical for me. So I used this as a bridge to hang out with my friend Brian tonight, as we can share our magic with you. So out of nowhere, Andy Esposito, she comes in and says, she's still here. Brian, let me tell you who Andy is. When I went to Hawaii in 1992, I met this young lady by name of Andy, who's in this room. Here's magic, synchronicity, and alignment for me, for sure. And I'm going to extend that to all. So I'm the sound engineer for this band at the Wave Waikiki when I was in Hawaii for 2 months. All expenses paid, and I got paid on top of it. And we just saw each other, and we just truly became friends. It can never be ripped apart, and she would agree. We just fell in love with each other, of our allowance of give and take and who we are. And we became such good friends. All we wanted to do was be around each other, just hang out. And she would show me the island because she lived there. She was on an acrobatic team. I remember, Hawaii, the scooters are mopeds are very common there to get around. And I was on like the 3rd or 4th, 5th floor, whatever. And she would pull up in this, we made, there was no cell phones then, but we made plans to contact each other the next day at whatever time, 11 o'clock, usually 10:30, 11. And because the weather's so nice, the sliding in the doors was open, the windows door, and I'd hear this beep, beep. So I knew it was Andy down there waiting to pick me up, or we'd start walking. She'd go, Keith, throw down the keys. So throw down the keys. But that was a magical time for me, and I would love to go back. I would like to go to a different island because I heard that Oahu turned into a big old cesspool because of, there's a lot of crime there. They're not really happy about the white Europeans going in there and treading on their circuit. Well, they never really did like it, but I heard things are getting a little hostile. How was it on the island where you were? Just magical? I mean, the sunsets and people?
I was on the big island, and it wasn't that I had a horrible time there. I had a fantastic time. I was in paradise. But I realized that I have deep relationships with some friends that are super creative, and I didn't have that large pool of super creative friends in Hawaii. I had really cool people in Hawaii, but I didn't have the deep well. So when I got back here to Los Angeles and got to deeply connect with my friends again, I decided to make the safe space where we all can connect and flow together. And it could be your garage or your basement or some little room or the porch or sitting out at the park. You can make your safe space and all connect at a certain time. Let's say every Saturday at 2:00, you and your friends go eat at the same restaurant and go hang out and share the beautiful stories of all the great things that happen to you. That's something to look forward to. And so by looking forward, you'll have something every day to live for. I can't wait till Saturday to come by. So at 2:00, I get to see all my friends and share all my great things that happen to me. Instead of bitching about the negative things, share all the positive things and show and tell, And so all these are habits. And so I didn't have that going in Hawaii like I have it here. And so it wasn't that Hawaii was bad. It's that this became better because I've had some deep relationships. And so, yeah.
What I think it was, why it was so magical for me, because it was magical for me. Seeing such beauty, maybe without a doubt, it's probably the first time in my life that I've seen such beauty in the form of a culture, scenery, the people I've met, being away from America, it was just beautiful for me because I just come out of a dark night of the soul. Shortly. No, actually, this was before the dark night of the soul. And so I guess it was a primal something staple I needed to give me some sort of foundation to stand on so that when things in the very near future, a couple of years later, the rocks were going to slide, and they slid, and I fell into the abyss for 2 years. But I found my magic wand. I found my magic stick, and, being in a tough spot is a tough spot. It's how you contribute to the tough spot that will ease up on the throttle. We are the throttle. We have to ease up on ourselves. Brian, I enjoyed my time with you, sir. A lot of people in the rooms tonight were affected. They really were moved by lots of what you were saying, sir, and our dialogue together. And I want to say thank you to everyone for participating, because without you, there would be no opportunity to hang out with you. So,
co-creation.
Co-creation. We're all stirring the witch's brew together. Brian, thank you. I've been posting Brian's links in the forum. Please go all over his website, make a big stank, let him know you exist. Brian, again, thank you, everyone. Keith Anthony Blanchard here. Tomorrow night at Center of Right Radio, I'm going to be interviewing someone by the name of William Wildblood. His new book called Earth is a School. Don't come here and look like a fool. Do what you need to do. Use that tool. You are the powerful one. No one is, no one will ever be more powerful or more greater or more anything than you. When we begin to integrate that, all that we are due steps to the fore. Things get gorgeous. You get gorgeous. Life becomes delicious. You ask for second helpings, third helpings, fourth helping, until you can't help yourself anymore because you've turned up the fire on your stone soup. Now go, love yourself, and eat your spiritual goop.